Professor Rolfe, the phrase you used was "no matter what the cost," and I think that was indeed in the Supreme Court opinion from years and years ago. But I'll share a couple of costs with you. In Oregon, the spotted frog estimate for recovery is $2.7 billion. That's the number from ODF&W, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. On the four lower Snake River dams, there's been an effort to have them breached. I don't know if you've been part of that litigation or not. It's been going on for a very long time. But the cost of replacing the 3,000 megawatts of peaking power that those dams provide would be somewhere between $3 to $12 billion. That's to replace the generation capacity. It's not to take into account the loss of those facilities, which would be also in the billions. And so this is going to be justified with the ESA. There's no other justification for doing it, and particularly when we lose the navigation. So the phrase, no matter the cost, do you take the position then that we should be putting $2.7 billion into the recovery of the spotted frog, and that we should be spending somewhere between, I'm going to say, a low of $6 billion and a high of 20 to take out those dams?
Well, Congressman, I'm not sure where you get your figures, but I'm quite confident that the state of Oregon could recover spotted frogs for a fraction of those billions of dollars. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife hasn't spent that much money probably in its entire existence. As far as the lower Snake River dams go, as you well know, there are studies underway investigating the replacement of the energy output of those four lower Snake River dams with renewable energy. And in fact, there are efforts underway now, spearheaded by the tribes, to develop renewable energy resources which would provide the region with clean energy to replace that of the dams, allow those dams to be decommissioned, and to fulfill the United States treaty obligations to Northwest tribes to allow rural communities to thrive with
forgive me for interrupting,
recovered
Professor,
fisheries.
But it's irksome that you would gloss over the cost. And the money that is going to the tribes was done so, in my opinion, and based on the hearing we held up in Canada where 400 people showed up, this committee, field hearing, to oppose exactly what you're saying. The $400 million or whatever it is that's going to the tribes, you're kind of glossing over that part. You're also glossing over the part that those dams provide stable power, and that solar, which they're going to be using, is intermittent, and thus you need about 3 times the amount until we get a battery that works of solar. Anyway, I do want to go back to one thing, and it's what I call legal extortion under the guise of mitigation. And what we have then is the ODF&W or somebody else coming in and saying, you know what, you don't have to comply if you mitigate. If you go buy a ranch and give it to us, then that will offset the loss of whatever, I know, right of way for a power line. This extortionary device is terrible for all kinds of reasons. But my question to you is, how do we appropriately measure the amount of proper mitigation?
Under the Endangered Species Act, for example, the statute requires agencies to use the best available science in all cases. And so when agencies, in the rare instances, for example, when an agency finds jeopardy to the continued existence of a listed species, which, as I indicated, is extremely rare, in those cases, the agency has to prescribe reasonable and prudent alternatives, and those have to be economically viable.
I'm going to have to interrupt again. Extremely rare. I don't know how many thousands of people lost their jobs in Oregon because of the spotted owl. Literally, I don't. It's literally tens of thousands of people. You say extremely rare. It doesn't have to be anything other than rare when it has that kind of impact when it does come into play. I don't know why you say that when the consequences are so incredibly negative. So please, when you try to minimize the true consequence, please call out the damage being done. And